Look down at your hands right now. Open them. Close them. Feel the grip. That grip, the strongest one you can make, is weaker than the relaxed, unflexed grip of a 12-year-old girl who lived 30,000 years ago. Not weaker than her father. Not weaker than her warrior brother. Weaker than her. A child. Doing nothing. This isn't an insult. It isn't an exaggeration. It is what the bones say. And the bones do not lie. For more than a century, archaeologists have been pulling skeletons from the ground and noticing something they could not explain. The bones were wrong. Not damaged. Not deformed. Just impossibly, unreasonably strong. Denser than ours. Thicker than ours. Built for forces no modern human body would ever be asked to endure. And the deeper they dug, the worse it got. By the time they reached the Ice Age, they were no longer looking at the bones of people. They were looking at the bones of something closer to machines. Let's start with what the science actually shows, because the numbers are stranger than fiction. In 2017, a Cambridge researcher named Alison McIntosh published a study comparing the leg bones of prehistoric European women to those of modern athletes. Not average women. Athletes. Cross-country runners. Soccer players. Elite-level competitors who trained for hours every single day. The result was so unexpected, she ran the analysis 3 times to be sure. The prehistoric women, women who lived 7,000 years ago and never set foot in a gym, had upper arm bones up to 16% stronger than the runners and roughly equal to elite female rowers. Their leg bones were denser. Their joints were broader. Their entire skeleton was constructed for loads that modern training cannot replicate. These were not warriors. These were not exceptional individuals. These were farmers, mothers, average women, doing average things in a world that no longer exists. And if average women were that strong, imagine the hunters. This is where the story stops being about exercise and starts being about something deeper. Because strength like this is not built in a year. It is not built in a lifetime. It is layered, generation after generation, into the architecture of the human body itself. And to understand it, you have to understand the world that built them. Picture a single ordinary day, 20,000 years ago. You wake before dawn, not because you set an alarm, but because your body has done this every day since you were born. You step out of the shelter into air, so cold it burns. There is no breakfast. There will not be one for hours. By the time the sun is up, you have already walked 4 miles, climbed a ridge, and tracked a herd of reindeer across frozen ground. By midday, you are sprinting, fully sprinting, after wounded prey for distances that would destroy a modern marathon runner. You catch it. You kill it. And now the real work begins. A single adult reindeer weighs 300 pounds. You and one other person will carry it back. Across rivers. Up hills. Through snow. For miles. When you arrive, you spend the next 6 hours skinning, butchering, scraping, hauling, breaking bones, and storing meat. You do not sit down. There is no chair to sit on. By the time you sleep that night, you have moved more weight, walked more distance, and exerted more force in one day than a modern office worker exerts in a month. And then you wake up the next morning and you do it again. For 30 years. This is what built them. Not training. Not protein powder. Not optimization. Just a life so physically demanding that the body had no choice but to grow into it. Bones do not lie because bones are honest. They remodel themselves to the loads they carry. Carry nothing, and they thin. Carry the world, and they thicken into iron. Now consider what they ate. And here, the contrast with modern life becomes almost embarrassing. The Ice Age diet was not the desperate, starving affair the cartoons taught you. It was, in nutritional terms, one of the richest diets the human species has ever consumed. They ate organ meat by the pound, organs you would never touch. Organs packed with vitamins and minerals in concentrations no modern supplement can match. They ate bone marrow, scooped from the inside of cracked femurs, dense with fat and growth factors that build skeleton. They ate raw fish, fermented plants, wild eggs, insects, tubers, and the kind of leafy material we would now call weeds. Their meals were not balanced. They were extreme. Every bite was loaded with the exact nutrients required to construct and maintain a body built for war with the environment. A single ancient meal could contain more bioavailable iron than a modern person consumes in a week. Their bodies were not malnourished. Ours are. And then there is the part nobody likes to talk about. The part that makes modern audiences uncomfortable. The part that explains why the gap between them and us cannot ever truly be closed. They were selected. Every generation of ancient humans was filtered through a brutal, indifferent test that we no longer face. A weak child in the Ice Age did not become a weak adult. A weak child in the Ice Age did not become an adult at all. Cold killed them. Hunger killed them. Infection killed them. The slowest hunter starved. The weakest mother lost her infant. The frailest body simply did not pass its genes forward. For hundreds of thousands of years, only the strongest blueprints survived to reproduce, and each generation inherited the compressed strength of every ancestor who had managed to live long enough to have children. We are descended from those survivors. Every single one of us. The strength is still encoded in our DNA. It is the world around us that has changed. The pressure that built those bodies is gone. And without pressure, the body softens. It is not a moral failing. It is physics. Then, about 12,000 years ago, something happened that quietly broke the human body forever. Agriculture. The textbooks call it the greatest leap in human history. The skeletons call it a catastrophe. The moment humans began to farm, the bones changed almost immediately. Average height dropped by nearly 6 inches within a few thousand years. Bone density collapsed. Tooth decay appeared for the first time. Joint disease became common. Iron deficiency, almost unheard of in hunter-gatherer remains, became a routine finding in farming skeletons. The species traded variety for stability, freedom for predictability, motion for repetition. And the body paid the price. Every century since has accelerated the decline. Plows replaced hands. Animals replaced legs. Wheels replaced backs. Engines replaced animals. Screens replaced everything. We built a world so comfortable that the body no longer has any reason to be strong, and the body, being honest, has obliged. A study published in 2015 measured grip strength across generations of young men in the United States. The average 30-year-old man today has the grip strength of an average 60-year-old man from 1985. In one generation. 1. Without ice ages. Without famine. Just from sitting. Now imagine the gap across 20,000 years. There is a skeleton in a museum in Kenya. She is 7,000 years old. She is just over 5 feet tall and could not have weighed more than 110 pounds. She is not famous. She has no name the public would recognize. But the researchers who studied her bones found something they could not quite bring themselves to put plainly in the paper. She was stronger than almost every person who will ever read these words. Not because she trained. Not because she tried, but because she lived in a world that demanded everything from her body and gave her no choice but to become equal to it. Her bones are a record of that demand, and ours are a record of its absence. Look down at your hands again. Open them. Close them. The strength is still in there. The blueprint is still in there. Every ancestor who survived to make you is still in there, layered into your DNA like sediment. You are not weak because you were built weak. You are weak because the world that built them no longer exists, and the world that built you no longer asks. That is not a tragedy. That is a trade. They had strength because they needed it. We have safety because we built it. But the next time you struggle to open a jar, the next time you catch yourself breathing hard from one flight of stairs, the next time your back aches from a chair, remember, somewhere in the ground beneath you, there is a 12-year-old girl who could have crushed it in her hand without thinking. And she is the reason you are here at all.